Yusuf, I get that you're passionate about this, but we cannot try to bring racial slurs back. Oh, sorry, we're live. Hey,
Buddy,
everybody.
buddy, what you're talking about? Buddy, what do you
Hey,
mean? Vart?
Vark.
Vart.
What,
That's how we Indians say what? Vart? It's
dude?
Vart. Vart?
Your
What do you mean?
your Indian accent is actually. I get it. You're half Indian, but like, I guess it makes sense that it's good. But I was not expecting it to
It
sound like that.
surprises people. You know what really is the funniest thing? People will bash on Indians being tough to like buy shit from or buy shit with. And I'll go, I know. And I will be the first to slander us because I'm allowed to. But no one suspects that I'm Indian. So I ride on that. Remember that time you said Indian? Dot or feather?
Yeah.
It took me 5 seconds to process that, and that was hilarious. By the way, if you guys can't tell, we're really just going to be ourselves on this. We got tired of giving you guys all of our heightened attention and uptightness. We just felt like, you know what? The people want Raw Dog Michael and Yusuf. So you're going to get Raw Dog Michael and Yusuf with respect and love, most importantly, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for the record, for the few people who may not be intelligent enough to realize that was a joke, Yusuf is not actually trying to bring racial slurs back. I'm just going to give him a hard time at various points throughout the podcast and make
Piece of
things
cake.
up that are silly.
Piece of
So
cake.
yeah, we've I think that at this point you realize that we're super passionate about delivering value and making sure that we give you guys practical, actionable insights, yada yada yada, to take home with you and implement into your everyday lives. But let's just do what most middle 20s white guys do on podcasts and talk about ourselves like it's the most important thing in the world, even though it's not. I literally have my legs on my fucking stand up desk from Amazon, like it's sturdy enough for that. And I'm big chilling. And I think he is too. He's in a goddamn hoodie in August, so it doesn't get much more chill than that. Uh, let's just chat. We're gonna talk about how we're doing, what's going on in life. Obviously, I've gone through some big fucking changes in my personal life here recently.
Yeah, we got questions to ask you, me and the people. We got to ask you
Yeah.
some questions.
All right, grill me, I guess. Put me in the hot seat or whatever.
Well, number one, 5 days into our internet partnership with this wooden imaginary lemonade stand, you quit your whole ass W-2 corporate job where you had to wear a polo or a white, but I mean, you looked like that jackass on Wall Street. Like that's like no offense, obviously.
No, it
And
didn't get more WASP than that.
what is WASP, by the way?
White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. That's basically a funny way, intelligent way to say cracker or honky.
You know where I heard that first? Wolf of Wall Street. You couldn't get any
Yeah.
more
He
waspy
wore the
than that.
frames because it looked more
Yeah,
waspy. Yeah.
big fluorescent white teeth. Yes, I absolutely know that. So you quit your job 5 days into our partnership. I don't know if you guys know this. Michael and I have never met. We've
Nope.
never met. We talked for the first time, I think, in either March or April, or was it May? That general time frame. I just got into San Diego. I just gotten
April
back. I just
because
moved.
I was in San Diego and I was like, I'm not close enough to this guy to ask him if he wants to meet. That might be weird.
That would have been cool. I would have been down for it, but also I say that, but I feel like it's been a lifetime since then too. At the same time, it's been like 3 or 4.
Dude.
It feels like.
Yeah.
So you're 5 days. 5 days into our partnership, you quit. You quit your waspy ass job, which
Yeah,
you
that
had a great
was
deal of respect and love for too. By the way, how are
yes.
things going? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean I think in the last episode you asked me something to the effect of I don't know how you did that corporate route that was never for me. I
Yeah,
did personally, like I liked it. I don't think very few people love going to work for the corporate like that 9 to 5 matrix cog, but
yeah.
like I worked for a small family owned company, smallish, 350 people. Like this, the owner of the company I knew personally. It wasn't buttoned up. Like it was old fashioned in the way that you wore a shirt with a collar to the office. It wasn't stand up desks and ping pong tables. It was cubicles and fucking fluorescent lighting. Um, but it was fun, and I made a great living. Like for someone my age, I always said to the old guys, like I'm just waiting for the horseshoe to fall out of my ass. I was very fortunate to be. It's an
What is that?
aphorism for it's I forgot you didn't grow up in the South. There's a lot of weird ways to say simple things. It means I was lucky.
Okay.
Horseshoes lucky. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, so and as the more we talk casually, the more you're going to realize I have unnecessarily absurd ways of saying things. I get it from my
Mm,
dad. He can't use plain English. He just speaks in metaphors. He's like,
mm,
I don't know, it's weird. He's a walking haiku. But anyway, um, I liked it. I was good at it, therefore I liked it. And I think one of the things I realized is that I just had a set of skills that happened to work in corporate America that also happened to work here.
mm,
And when that switch flipped, it was a good thing. But I loved that job until I didn't. And then I started the new job where I don't know how many people lasted 15 days at a company that just agreed to pay them well and set them up as an employee. And then 3 business weeks later, you say, peace out, bitches. Um,
yeah.
the anticipation of the conversation, and I think there's a lesson in here, was a lot worse than the conversation. Like, the Stoic quote from, I think Seneca said, we suffer more in our imagination than in reality.
Hmm.
99% of the time, the way you perceive something to happen is not nearly as bad as when it actually happens. So, had the conversation. They were super supportive and understanding. They did a little bit to try to keep me, but I said, "Here are the facts. Here's what I love. I'm young. I don't have kids and a mortgage. This is the time to try." And from that moment on, I felt like there was a weight lifted off my shoulders. Now, well, this morning when I saw your story of this guy quit his job for what is basically an invisible internet lemonade stand, I thought of like the scene in SpongeBob where Patrick is he's got the nail with the wood plank in his head and he's just got the hammer in his hand and it's just like
Yeah.
but except he's got abs because we're fitness coaches or some shit. It's like wow,
Hmm.
when you put it that way, it sounds like a crazy thing to do, but
It's
honestly,
hilarious.
it sounds corny, but it's like this sounds like the beginning of a great story, and I
This
felt
is
like I
this
would have
is
been a
Apple in the
fool.
garage, in my opinion.
Ah, yeah,
Recall,
that's a good analogy.
I literally told Michael this right before, and I said I want to just get on. I want to get on Riverside, the app that we use to record, and I want to be able to call Kobe. And he said like the call Kobe, like the DEAD Kobe, and I was like, like buckets, like calling it. It's like calling swish before the ball goes in. I
Yeah,
think for us, we have that same trajectory, that same confidence in what we're doing, that we're going to be able to call Kobe on our business dreams and our business goals and our life goals. So I was like, let's lay it out and speak it out into the universe and say exactly what we're going to do. And the cool thing is, this really is just two children following their dreams. This is all it is. I love this quote from Dan Martell: "Children love athletes because they never gave up on their dreams." And I
yeah,
feel like that I had a certain affinity towards that quote because I felt like I had never given up on fitness, despite my dad wanting me to go to school for computer science. Having two parents who are massively educated and within and embedded in education and government jobs, me rebelling, dropping out of community college twice to pursue fitness as my passion was my rebellion. And then I got good at it, and then it was all uphill from there. But I remember being like, I want to stick to what I'm passionate about. I had that conversation. I think when I was actually, it wasn't even a conversation. I just stopped up to class. It wasn't even a conversation. I just had zero grades. I just said, hey, I'm not going back. They're like, okay, so you're gonna get a job, right? And I was like, yes, totally.
sort of.
Yeah. So you and I actually, fun fact, I never looked up to personal trainers. But seeing what we do now, I think to the extent that we have it and to the extent that we have it down, I think, and also having in-person experience, seeing the way the fitness landscape looks right now with the intentional confusion, the marketing behind all of this fitness stuff, it is a fair playing field for anybody with common sense and reasonable people skills and
Yeah,
intellect and self-awareness. That's why
yeah,
when you were you were respectfully and with humility doubting yourself in the sense of just like, I think even you told me about imposter syndrome a little bit, and that actually, of all things, for anyone if anyone's listening to this, if you're hearing Michael had imposter syndrome, just imagine where you might have it. Like truly, in the areas of your own life. So, Michael, 5 days in, you quit. All of a sudden, we're here. We're talking on the internet. We're sharing our life goals and the fruits of our labor and our passion with people on the other end who are deciding to share their time and attention with us. If you had to crystallize a lesson in what you've done so far and how you feel so far, at least any internal reflections or crystallizations of any thoughts you've gotten or anything that you've now discovered about yourself or your new perspectives of life, what's it like now? Or have you gotten anything distilled down from your experience in quitting about when was it? Was it Was it a week and a half ago at this point? Was it 2 weeks
I
ago? It's two
um
weeks ago, I think.
yeah, it was the middle of the week. It was like
Yeah.
a Wednesday, I think, that I
Yeah.
officially put my notice in.
Can you walk us
Um,
through that? What that was like?
yeah, every
What you
every
got?
morning. Also, I'll unpack a lesson too because I've learned a lot about myself, and I think my perspective on life has shifted a lot. And it's gonna sound cliche, but it's like it sounds cliche to anyone who hasn't been forced to be in a situation where you have to adopt this perspective. It's a lot of cliche sayings, but anyway, Um, I just started a new job in consulting, which was the logical next step in the career of a successful outside sales guy. For those of you who don't know, there's inside sales, there's outside sales. Outside sales, you're dealing with clients. My decision makers, people I did business with, were like VPs, CEOs, CFOs, COOs. So high level decision makers. I was very successful in that field for 3 years. A lot of salespeople stay in the sales field or move into a pure consulting role, which is a form of sales, typically with bigger dollar figures, bigger deals, bigger companies. This one in particular was private equity consulting. So we're talking about
Bigger
hundreds
words.
of thousands of dollars a month in contracts. Um, and it was the perfect next step in the corporate career for me, and I was stoked about it. It was fully remote. It was a company run almost entirely by former veterans and spec ops guys, Green Berets, SEALs, high caliber individuals, people I wanted to be around. And I also had this epiphany in my life where I felt like I needed more people that made me better. I had gotten to a point where I'd grown apart from a lot of my friends, not all of them. There's still some I respect and look up to and spend a great deal of time with and keep up with. But we're just getting older, and you grow apart. And I wanted to be around people that pushed me to be better. And so I had told them all those things. And the day I quit, every day I had an 8:30 meeting, 8:30 a.m. remote call with my boss until I got ramped up and onboarded, just to check in, talk about training, what was on the plan that day. And I get on to quit my job, and I forget that they added a guy to the team who's like, we don't know each other. And so the one-on-one man-to-man convo I was supposed to have with the guy who stuck his neck out for me to get me hired, this other guy just hops on and was like, "Hey, gang, what are we talking about today?" And so I was like, "Oh, uh, this can't happen yet." So I asked him to call me when he got off with that individual, and called me, and I just said, "Look, outside of work, man to man, I got to tell you something. I'm resigning today." And he like didn't say
Wow.
anything. He just
Holy
eyes perked
shit.
up, got big. He's like, "What?" Mind you, this guy met me at a conference,
Mm.
saw what I was capable of doing in a team setting, sales call, role play setting, and referred me to the president off of that. So he had skin in the game.
Wow.
Um, and I guess to make a long winded answer short, I resigned. He tried to probe me to say, like, think about how much time and effort you've put into your career. Think about the risk of staying relevant long term in a platform like the one you're on. And I said, those are all valid
Talking about
reasons. And
TikTok
I was just talking about, like, I told him, like, at a high
or your
level,
platform in general?
I had told him at a high level. The president found my TikTok page my third day on the job, which was awkward. I didn't talk about it in corporate America, but he was fine with it. But I told my boss, look, I have a fairly decent social media presence. I'm making money off of it. I want to chase it as a dream. And he basically just said, like, hey, people fall off all the time in that space. What's the longevity? And I was like, look, man, respectfully, I get what you're saying. I've thought about it, but I don't give a fuck. I got to try. And he was
Mm.
like, fair, I get it. He said, I wouldn't want you to have regret. Look back and wonder what could have been. So was the president. He was very respectful. And then that afternoon, you and I got on a call and started working.
That morning.
That
You
morning,
remember
yeah, right after I
I
did it.
remember what happened when you called me. So you had set a goal in place in order for you to quit your job. So you quit
Yes.
your job within relative reason of logic. We had set, provided we met a certain revenue goal in a time frame. You decided, okay, this replaces and then some, and I can go for it. So that when you called, I got something that I feel like I feel very inspired to share for some reason, but I think it was almost this, because I didn't think that you were actually going to do it as quickly as you did. I
I knew
thought
you
in
thought I was
some,
going to pussy out.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah. So I mean, I had seen your reluctance, and I was like, I mean, I really don't remember where I was at when I made. I mean, I made the choice out of necessity in the past. Like I had pretty much unfortunately, in my last two roles, and now maybe two of my biggest roles, I had burned some bridges. I had done the thing that really you're not supposed to do. I burned some bridges, but they were out of big egos between me and the people I was working with. You know, in fitness, you do meet some enormous egos, and I would say I'm one of them. You know, I have no doubt in that. At least I'm aware of it in some ways. But
Well, it
I remember
manifests
burning.
itself more positively. Some people are just fucking assholes that with egos.
Thanks. I'm happy to hear that. Um, I had burned some bridges, and so I went out onto my on going on my own on a platform at a deficit in motivation, but no, now it was more out of necessity. And I just remember posting TikToks and being like, I hope one of these sticks. And I remember the day that one of them started to stick because I did it. I had like 5,000 TikTok followers when I broke apart with the last coach that I worked with, and I remember I was working under him. I had basically done, you know, all the stuff that you and I do for our training program, the community, the group chat. We do our own sales calls, we do our own consults, we do our own check-ins, we do our messaging, we do our follow up, progress photo tracking. We create all the content inside of the coaching program. I did that for another guy because I didn't believe that I could do it with you having imposter syndrome. So I had to start at like 1,200 or 5,000 followers on TikTok and just start sharing what I thought people wanted to see. And funny enough, the TikTok that really took off was the one that I'd finally posted out of frustration. I was just like, you guys keep asking me this question about how do I do, and I'm like, it's so much simpler than that. If we just hit our protein goal, everyone would do a turnaround in America. Period. If I got on television and said nationally, we're going to hit our protein goal, this is going to change everyone's life. You're going to get out of therapy. You're going to get your ex back if you want that. You're going to make them jealous. You're going to get fit. You're going to change the way you look, how you feel. I just posted protein. It's protein. Eat your damn protein. That TikTok, my ex at the time walked into the kitchen, got home, and she went, I don't think we should see each other anymore. And I was like, what? Okay. Because that TikTok had just hit and it was the best possible TikTok to blow up. Because it was the TikTok that was my secret sauce. It was protein goal. Protein goal was like
Yeah.
my golden ticket for people to get fit because I could explain protein goal in a way that it tied everything together. And that TikTok was at least a testament to that, I would think. So when I posted it out of necessity, and then I got some traction on some before that. So I was able to get into a position where I could live comfortably just through posting content on TikTok and getting clients through Instagram. And meeting people that way, just reaching out naturally, being like, "Hey, I've seen your content. I love it on TikTok." You've had a similar. Oh, to finish that story, it was really funny. I said specifically when she before she broke up with me, I said, "Babe, the best possible TikTok that could have blown up blew up." I was like, I'm getting consults at the ass. I'm getting calls, DMs, I'm getting everything. I'm getting people just being like, "Work with me, work with me, work with me." And she was like, "I don't think we should see each other anymore."
Her response was great. We're done.
I was so respectfully relieved in some way because I think there was a point where in my life you said it. You said I don't have a mortgage and I don't have a you said something else, mortgage and a what?
Kids.
Kid. Yeah. I felt that same level of freedom in some way when I was departing her. And I remember because there was this moment in my career where I was in bed on my phone responding to comments at like 10 o'clock. And she looked over and said, "Can you get off your phone?" Which was reasonable. But in my head at that in that point in my world, I was like, this isn't gonna work out. Because I was like, I would feel resentment towards you if I put this away and I didn't respond to these comments right now. I feel really, really cold too. So for you, you've had and dealt with and still maybe are a little bit, I don't know, maybe if you want to talk about that, imposter syndrome. Now
Yeah.
you've met my community and I've met your community. We've merged them into one Siamese twin, into one baby,
Yes.
into one school now, which is like the coolest thing ever. And honestly, it's a project of dreams. It's like it's like being able, like I can't describe what it's like being able to work with Michael, and for him, I don't know what it's like for you to work with me. Or we both gotten some isms from each other and some ticks from each other. You've gotten some of my personality. I've gotten some of your personality. In just a few short weeks that we've really worked very intimately together.
Yeah.
So you've dealt with imposter syndrome. You've dealt with making that leap in some way, and respectfully making the choice of going, I'm gonna jump, I'm gonna do it. So you got a lesson out of it. Did you share your lesson already? Was that what did you share your lesson yet?
No,
About what
no,
you
good
got from it?
memory. Good memory. I did not. I was just thinking that we just got another topic, which we're gonna do a lot of. I'm fine with that. I've become a lot more of a proponent and believer in like law of attraction, manifestation, all the stuff that is kind of woo woo.
Something amazing is about to
You know,
happen.
speaking in, yeah, something amazing is about to happen. We say it every day. I said it twice on my run. You call it in to action, and then you take the action, and good shit happens. And I set that lofty, goal of if I can make this much and prove to myself that it's possible, I'll quit my job. And I kept the promise to myself. I couldn't. All my content's based around make agreements with yourself and don't break them. I couldn't break one, right?
Yeah, I was super
Um,
surprised that you quit.
I think
That's where we
that
were.
um,
You called me
I'm a
that
lot of
morning.
I'm a lot of things, but a liar ain't one. Um, I I had two main lessons I think come out of that. One was I thought super powerful and a good example of like the universe is weird sometimes and it gives you what you need when you need it. But the internal struggle and the constant fatigue and energy drain of splitting my time between two jobs, one that I truly loved and one that I had to pay the bills and was starting to love less as I realized I could make money doing what I loved. I will say it was tough and I was having hard times waking up. Right now, I'm popping out of bed every morning at 5:15 and going to train. I couldn't get out of bed at 6:30 to go for a walk for the last
Wow.
month and a half. Like, I was talking to Sarah about that last night. I was like, my energy is better, and I think I'm realizing the physical suck that had on my soul, splitting my time. So
Wow.
July 4th, my best friend's father was diagnosed with cancer. He was diagnosed with leukemia. Um, Spent 25 days in the hospital. Everything's looking good. He's out now. Um, but and maybe I've talked about this in the past episode. He's a well-learned man. He's got a PhD. He's a really successful corporate consultant and psychologist. He works with the high performers of the world to get their mind right. Basically, wrote a great book called Elite Minds.
Mm.
Dr. Stan Beecham. He was sick, and we were talking, and he had no idea what I'd been struggling with. Do I quit my job? Do I stay? That's an exhausting internal battle. And I went to see him in the hospital, and I just asked him point blank, what is the most important lesson you feel like you've learned? And from a guy with the perspective he has, he's very heady, obviously a psychologist, pretty in touch. He said two things. One, that was, I think I could have been nicer to people. I think that everybody's going through shit, and it takes no more effort to be kind than it does to be an asshole. It might even take more effort to be an asshole. He said he wishes he's going to be more aware of the way he makes
Wow.
people feel and things he says. But the thing that really struck me was he said, I finally feel what it means to say life is too short to not go after exactly what you love and care about and have a passion for. And
Oh,
I was
I just
like,
got
fuck.
goosebumps.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I was like, he doesn't even know that I'm dealing with this. Like my buddy hadn't told him anything. Um, and that was it. Like I said, that was all that struggle. And I was like, for him to say that to me in this moment, I quit my job the next day. That was the biggest lesson I learned. I think there was one more in there. Uh, Fucking go for it. And it's probably not as bad in real life as you're imagining it will be. So whatever you're fucking anxious about, going to the people with gym anxiety, the people that are worried about having that hard conversation, you can have hard conversations in an easy life or easy conversations in a hard life. Just do the things
Mm.
that you think are tough. They're not as bad as they seem. I couldn't be happier with my decision, honestly.
Wow.
And I had a lot of admiration for you. Like when I first met you and you told me like what's possible, I realized like you're making a living living in a cushy apartment in San Diego where it's obviously expensive to live. It's like, oh, he's doing really well. Like there is something to this if this is his job. And you had never taken the conventional route, and I never really called it out, but I knew your dad had an educational background, and I didn't. We hadn't talked about what your mom did for a living. What does she do for work?
Refugee resettlement. She works for the government. So she heads a program that rehomes refugees, puts them in programs to become citizens.
Okay.
Yeah.
So structure, like I hear that and I think
Government job.
structure, follow the plan, go to school, get a good job, get a good
Yeah.
salary, get a
I have an Indian
401k.
mother too.
And
I
they're
have an
pretty
this is how I'm able to do the accent buddy. This is how I'm able to do it. Yeah. So very, very also heady, educational, go the traditional route, go to school. And my dad's in education. He's a teacher. Both of them have been teachers. They were teachers when they had me in Saudi Arabia. Like they've been the educational route. And yeah. So going with what you're saying, yeah, she was Indian.
Yeah, I
refugee
was just
settlement.
gonna say, like, culturally, Indians are good. I know that part of the heritage and the culture, or the culture rather, is like perform well, do well in school, get a good job. Like I've heard that from my friends in the IT space because I was in IT for 3 years. That's like how
Yeah.
their families were. A lot of engineers in IT that are Indian, and for you to go against
Bring your
that,
mic a little closer.
yeah, for you to go against that, I had admiration for because I never really had the stones to do it. And then I was like, look, if he can do this, you told me you can do this. So I just gave it a shot. So I was just curious, like in the moment, and I know it's been a long time now, but when you're 18, 19, whatever it was, like, was that difficult for you to say, like, hey, mom and dad,
No,
I'm dropping out and I'm going to go
no,
be a gym manager?
it wasn't. It wasn't. But I also was someone I don't even do that as an only child, gym bro, who played video games and skipped classes. And I don't think that I thought anything of it. I just assumed I would always land on my feet. I was scared, but I didn't know what it would be like. But I had this faint idea of what it would feel like, and I knew someday that the dream would be able to get rewarded by putting out what I really love to do.
Yeah.
And it was at a time when I just gotten my job, quit community college. So the gym general manager at the time knew I was skipping classes because I was working out when I had classes. He had my schedule. And so he was like, "You said you couldn't work today. Your classes." I was like, "Yeah." I hated it. It was my intro to computer science class or something like that. And I she started the class day one with this question: If you have a job interview at 1 o'clock, what time should you get there? And I went, "Fuck you. That's a stupid question. Where do I live?" I remember being like, "I'm not learning from you. You're stupid." Respectfully, again, this is I really I was an 18-year-old boy who lifts weights and thought he was the fucking shit. That's what I thought. And I also had a great deal of admiration and respect for educators altogether because of my parents. I think my parents are the two most brilliant people in the entire world, and I have all of this world and love for them, all the love in the world for them. But I remember seeing her and being like, "You're not my parents. You suck. I don't want you." And I knew no matter what I'd be good because I had them. And it wasn't like a backing of money. It was just like this backing of actually, it was really just unconditional love and support. That's what they gave me. My parents gave me unconditional love and support. They're two of the most loving and incredible people that I've ever met. I'm so fortunate. And I wake up and I actually remember viscerally feeling I lucked out getting them because I could think of my dad. What my dad chased his dream. He went from fat to fit, middle of the country in North Carolina. And when I moved to San Diego, despite being broke and irresponsible as a kid, I moved to San Diego when I was 22, and I had no money. I mean, I was getting 50K a year, 70K a year, as a gym
How
general
did you,
manager.
how did you find a place to live in San Diego on 50K a year?
My roommate. So my roommate and I, funny enough, still it wasn't as bad in 2019. I think it was 2019. It wasn't as bad in 2019.
Yeah, it's
Um,
asinine now.
with cost of living in San Diego is absolute butt cheeks. I lucked out in this apartment. This apartment, I would say, is the coolest apartment in San Diego for the cost. Like I get a full cityscape view, and I'm paying under $4 grand a month. Like it's insane. Like anything under $4 grand a month in San Diego is like a fucking wall, and you might look at a tree maybe, and it's like I lucked out with this one.
And the
So
only the occasional deceased homeless person on the side of the road, as opposed to the
yeah,
frequent
that
deceased
is
homeless
also a
person.
that is also a thing here. You know, that is also a thing here. It's crazy. So my dad chased his dream going from a fat kid in North Carolina to then going to school in Iowa to study. At first it was law, and then he ended up going into educate something. I don't remember what it was, but he's the man. And he chased his dream. He went from a small town Christian boy to basically kind of a big city Muslim convert. And so he's had cojones from the get to be able to change his fundamental thinking and to challenge himself and want to learn and grow. He's also very heady. I love that you use that word heady because I haven't known how to describe up in the air people because like that's where I feel like I live sometimes as a kind of anxious fire air type of some sorts, if you will.
Yeah.
So he supported me. My mom supported me. They just both wanted me to be healthy and safe and responsible. And funny enough, those conditions of stress and uncertainty really brought out the best in me. And one of my favorite quotes I've ever heard is the best and most unfair advantage you could ever have coming up in the world is great parents and not much money. And that's what I felt like exactly I had. So I really appreciated what I had. I was able to stay kind of in a perma gratitude state for what I'd accrued. But then also I had this extremely stable pillar in my heart that these two people that brought me into the world supported me and cared for me no matter what. And I got all of their undivided attention pretty much throughout my young 20s still, talking to them across the country. So they were able to support me and aid me. I didn't really feel much fear, but I knew that I had to perform. I never really got to rest and sit. I didn't get to chill. I mean, I it was like still grinding it out.
Right.
Definitely. Like I would commute 1 hour to this place in the middle of California, Temecula wine country from San Diego, and then commute 1 hour back. And my shift was 13 hours at the gym. So it was absolute.
Jesus.
So I would be out for 15 hours. It was absolute butt cheeks. And I would just come home. I would only have the weekend. I ate bad. I drank. I still performed. I still sold personal training somehow. I would even though getting a bit heavier. And then I eventually just started to hate the corporate world of fitness and just get I just was like, these gyms don't really give a fuck about these people. Like they don't actually care. And that was an easy angle for me to really get passionate about because I had the two most loving people in the world in my corner. My dad had gone fat to fit, and my mom is this amazingly passionate and present and mindful woman. And so being able to channel both of them into my interactions with people just through coaching has been, I think, one of the greatest advantages I've ever gotten in my life. So I felt really
Mm.
secure from the get in that sense. But I want to bounce it back to you. I really want to learn more about because I don't know this about you. I know I'm familiar, so I mean, I think that the base knowledge I have is we're both relatively similar in the fact we appreciate nature, we appreciate present moments with our loved ones, we appreciate our body. We want to. We're you both really young. Like I'm 26, you're turning 26 in a week, eight,
August
nine
August
days.
18th.
9 days. You're turning 26 in 9 days. I turned 26 in May, so about 3 months ago. Um, so going into the rest of your life, this is a question I asked you when we first met. What is your dream life like? What is that like for you? We both have these big, hor- horrendously audacious goals for what we want to do, but really at the root of it is still our passion. But what does that life look like to you? What's inside the mind of Michael when it comes to what your dream life looks like?
I think every day, if I can do something to help myself, help someone else, and have peace of mind knowing that the people I love and myself are taken care of, that's a perfect day. That may sound ambiguous or woo woo, but like I get a great deal of intrinsic value from knowing. Like there are people that I don't know from Adam that will DM me and say, "I've been watching your videos silently for 3 months. I'm down 50 pounds. I
Dude,
love myself." Like that. That never gets old. And for the
never.
people who are like, I doubt you'll even respond to this. Like I see just about every DM. I don't miss one. I try to respond to comments. Like it means a lot when you reach out. And
That's real
we're also,
dopamine.
it's real dopamine. It's human interaction. We're also just normal people. Like we're internet famous. We're not famous. So
Mm.
it's like people like or like I had a guy meet me in person. Was like, this is like a celebrity moment for me, and I was like, brother, I pulled up here in a Hyundai. I promise you, it's not a celebrity moment. Like, relax. Thank you though. So I think the perfect day to me is can I do something to help myself? So can I prioritize my day around my movement, my nutrition, my physical activity? Because that will always be at the center of my life and the center of my love for my life. If I can do that and not have a job, people have jobs that rob them of that time for themselves because they're so
Yeah.
demanding and they don't know how to make time for it. Um, so as long as I can maintain that freedom to do what I want physically, I see people like Eric Heinman. If you know him, he owns a bunch of businesses, big fitness guy, and it's 1:30 p.m. and he's in his backyard overlooking the mountains doing assault bike cold plunge sauna
Yeah.
intervals. Like that's a dream to
Yeah.
me. Today I cut
That's
out at
life.
yeah, to me I cut out at 2 p.m. I did a 6 mile recovery run. That's a dream to me to be able to do that in the middle of the day. to be able to help someone, so to continue to coach with you and like make a genuine impact. Getting paid for what we do is fantastic and it pays the bills, it keeps food on the table. But for someone to like look me in the face and say, I had no hope before I met you and now I feel like I get it, that's
Yeah.
everything. And then lastly, to feel like the ones I love and care about that I have to take care of or care for are taken care of. I think that's if I can check those boxes every day and feel certain in that and have that freedom, that's perfect to me. I think a
Freedom,
perfect day. Yeah, freedom.
real freedom. Yeah, I'll never get tired of being able to go outside and just get some sunlight at 10 a.m. and not have to ask anybody. I just do it. And I'll take my meetings or take my texts or messages and check-ins just on a walk, or I'll pace the shit out of my apartment, or I'll just lay out in the sun and do it. And it literally is a dream. It is a dream compared to having to be glued to a desk. This is no disrespect to obviously anyone who's glued to a desk, but there's a level of visceral freedom that you can feel, and there's no other. You described it exactly how I felt when I felt like I'd taken the leap to leave gyms. It was like a weight off my shoulders. I was like, there's not 80 bosses that are looking up my asshole if I did 80 fucking calls for them. Like, does it even matter? Do you guys even give a shit? And that having that where every message I sent or every post I posted landing on someone else's ears and the message generally came from me, that level of freedom and autonomy and respect slash credit and just being able to compound my efforts, there was a level of that at the gym I could get, but it never, not to the extent that social media is able to give it.
Right.
It's nowhere near that because it's you were putting your message out. You ever heard content is the transference of energy through a screen?
No, I haven't heard that, but it's good.
It's just a new way. It's like it's really you be just presenting yourself to these people, to people on the other side of the internet, which is absolutely insane. I mean, they're listening to this right now. It's nuts.
That never gets less bizarre for me. Like if when
Yeah.
I sit and really sit with the thoughts, like you asked me if I still have imposter syndrome, and I'm starting to be bigger on like verbal affirmations. Like we do actually say something amazing is about to happen every day because
Yeah.
we believe that. But I've had to tell myself like you're worth this. You have perspectives worth listening to. But I was on a walk yesterday just reflecting. I was like, there are like 195,000 people that want to hear what I have to say, and not just about like here's how to calculate your calories, here's how to build muscle tissue, here's what a barbell squat looks like. It's like they want to hear our mindset things. That's what I think fascinates me is like I don't feel like you or me are necessarily saying anything original. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. I think there's something about it that offers a unique perspective on the same lessons that 10,000 other people are getting across that lands with some people. And that is where the imposter syndrome wants to take over and tell me there's no way that this sticks, that this keeps going. When I talk about like how I approach the gym or my outlook on certain things, and people are like, I never heard it before, this is incredible. Or
Yeah.
the
Oh
way
my
that you
gosh.
described in a video, I was actually like creeping on your page the other day, bored, and I found a video that I liked like fucking 3 months ago where you were like, I don't use the term calorie deficit because I'm not a fucking robot and I'm not a computer. And at
Yeah.
first I was like, when I first heard, I was like, what's he about to say about the calorie deficit? Is he going to tell me that it's about your insulin? And then
Yeah.
you were like, no, because if you adopt certain habits, the calorie deficit is the byproduct of the outcome of these certain habits occurring. And
Yeah.
I was like, fuck. And when I started coaching by myself, I was trying to tell everybody like, all right, we're gonna do this. Here's how you track calories, and it still just wasn't landing with people, or they were not
Mm.
tracking correctly. And then you told me you were like, nope, phase one, protein goal, whole foods, steps. And then I started assigning that to people, and they're like, I'm seeing results so fast. So I say all that to say, like, you or I don't believe personally are saying anything groundbreaking. We are simply able and fortunate enough to somehow have a perspective that lands with people. And that is where it gets hard for me to understand because I feel
We're
like
just
I'm
being
just a
us.
dude.
We're just
Yeah, I'm
being
just a
ourselves.
brain attached to some limbs. Like I'm not anything special. And I don't know. It's fucking awesome. That's what like really makes me feel good, honestly.
There's a quote. Okay, you guys ready for this? This is a passage from a book. This, the feeling fills me with a recognition of a profound truth that genius is simply to believe your own thought. To believe what is true for you in your private heart is true for all people. Speak what is true for you, and it will almost always resonate in others. The voice in your own head is so familiar to you that you give it no respect. Instead, you give too much weight to the thought of others, your neighbors, your teachers, or some great thinker from the past. But what makes great thinkers great is that they didn't disregard their own thought. They expressed what they truly thought, and they listened to their own voice. I love that definition of genius. That couldn't be more true to me than anything.
Dude, that I haven't heard I'm a big aphomism guy, as I've said before, but like that hits. That the one
Yeah,
piece of something to the effect of it said, the voice in your head becomes so familiar that you treat it with no respect.
yeah,
Like that's what we are fortunate enough to be able to live right now is we're sharing the voice in our heads that I thought like this is just normal. This is what everybody thinks. This is not a big deal. But dude, that's good. So for anyone listening to this, maybe you feel like you have something to say and you aren't confident enough to say it. You're worried about what people will think if you create a page and you start pushing out content. People in this world, this day and age of connectivity and Wi-Fi and technology, like more people have never felt alone, and they want to feel heard and they want to feel understood. And I think we, as an accident, make people feel that way. I've had many people say, like, I feel like I'm receiving a video from a friend when I watch your videos because you're
yeah,
just in your car talking. And that is a powerful line, dude. Like, I, you have done it for much longer than me, and I admire you for that. But I guess what I really did in my feet, getting over one, my fear to create content because I worry that all my asshole friends whom I love very dearly were going to be like, oh, Smoke's an influencer. Again, suffer more in the
mm-hmm.
head than in reality. They've all been
Mm-hmm.
very supportive. They admire it a lot. Once I got over that hurdle, I decided to listen to my own voice and put it out there. And here's where we are 4 months later because I listen to myself. So I hope if someone out there is struggling with that hears this, this is your sign. This is the universe trying to kick you in the ass and say, just fucking take a leap and try something new. That was a bar. I'm glad you read that.
Yeah. That got me to trust myself and just being able to share my thoughts on the internet. That alone did it. The posts, the captions, and it's evolved into shirtless photos and some quotes sometimes, but it started with really trusting myself and the own voice in my own head. Because there was a point where that guy wasn't my friend, like at all. And I
Yeah.
think part of the success in each individual person's world, because I don't think I would have ever. I said it. I called it. I was like, I'm gonna do fitness stuff. Like this is me shooting my shot at the universe. And then I do it, and I'm like, wait a second, this is weird. This is exactly what I asked for. But it
That,
started with
dude,
speaking it out.
yes. That's such a good way to put it. It's like I started putting my thoughts out in the universe and was like, wait, this is what I
This
wanted to
is
happen.
exactly it. You know what's funny? I respond. So the call to action, CTA, for those of you that know marketing terminology, the call to action for someone to interact with us and submit an inquiry, like how does coaching work? So it's I got goals. And my favorite way to start with that, because some people will they get this. They get exactly how I'm going to say it. They'll go, I got goals. They'll DM. And then I go, cool, amazing. Tell me more about what's going on. What are your goals? But be careful, you might actually get it. And they love that. They're like, yeah, and I'm like, that's the problem. It's actually scary to get it. Like certain and there's people, you know, it's something that's I think maybe since sounds weird to say working on the internet, but since meeting people through the internet, people really do share exactly what they think. But they share a side of it that isn't super sexy or flattering in the sense that they'll out themselves in the negative habits they have. They'll just tell you it and say that they have problems, which isn't it's not a slight on other people, but it's this interesting thing that people almost because I have it. I have that for myself. I had it. I mean, I trained. You can train yourself to think more positively. You can see not all your thoughts are really your thoughts, and etc. And you can train yourself. But there are still people nowadays who are unconsciously incompetent in the space of observing their thoughts, and they'll just say it, and they're either extremely self aware, or I just couldn't catch myself I wouldn't speak negatively about myself to someone like the way that some people do. And it's a reminder as to what I think is inspiring for both of us to be able to see. And we feel a little bit of sadness because it's like this, okay, why do we get to do this then? Like like we have problems. We have things that we're actually scared of right now. We have things that
Yes.
we're fearful of that if this might not pan out, this could happen. But we're choosing to look at the faithful side as opposed to the fear side. Both realities are undetermined. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to speak out the one that I want. And I think that comes with one practice, meditation, journaling, reading, taking notes from other successful people in the field, but also most importantly, just being aware of what is possible. I think has been one of the coolest gifts that I think the internet has shown. Because I've met people who started off with really, I don't want to say atrocious self talk, atrocious, really self images. There's this book from Zig Ziglar, see you at the top. That there's a section on 20, I think it's 18 or 20 steps to a healthy self image. Changed my life. Like to be able to feel and think and get permission to think that I'm deserving of something was like one of the most wild transformations mentally. And what it gave me more than anything was energy, unlimited energy. Because it gets exhausting. The way that some people message me and go, "You're gonna hate me for this. I did this, this, this." And I'm like, "What the fuck? I don't hate anybody. Why do you?" And they'll just out themselves, whatever their negative habits are. And it's crazy because it's like I think that's the one thing about having a social media profile. People feel like they know you. And for lack of better content, you guys do know us. We do share exactly what our thoughts are on the internet. You guys do know us in some way, but it's so crazy
Sometimes
for
in that
us to
very
see.
moment.
Yeah, and sometimes we get people who will return the same thing, but their thoughts are totally different. And it's been
Right.
such an enlightening experience to be able to see. And I think what is at the core for us an inspiration as to what makes us feel like, okay, all right, if that's out there, we might as well put out some good. It's
Yeah.
been
Do you
insane.
do you feel like one thing I've been really interested in I'm impressed by, I'm not sure what the right term is. I've been observant of lately is the level of vulnerability that people are willing to share with us because they do feel like they
Yee.
know us through the internet. Like the things that, and this is a good thing. If you're thinking about reaching out to us about coaching or you're not happy, like we want all the details. We want how you really feel about you and the world. And we want to know what's holding you back because that's what we want to do is help with those things. We can't know if you're not honest, but like it's been really kind of upsetting to me to understand the way that some people talk to themselves. And I always thought that I struggled with positive self-talk. Like I've heard people that are in psychology say do as simple as when you lose your keys or misplace something, don't say I'm such a fucking idiot. Just say, I misplaced that. That's all right. I'll get it. I'll get better at that. And those little things compound micro trauma or micro losses against yourself versus micro wins. But like the way that some people talk about themselves, have you been shocked? It's like I want to help you. I think I can, but like you got we got to put some muscular hypertrophy on your soul first.
Yeah. Yeah, um there's a lot of confusion out in the world, understandably. You ever heard that this nice perspective is in about 6 months we'll take in more information in on TikTok than some of our ancestors ever got in their whole life.
Oh yeah.
Like that's a tough place to be. To know everything. It doesn't make the world sexier. It makes it almost worse sometimes. Because you see every flaw, you see everything that's unfair, and then you've got to choose to muster up the courage, then still show up for yourself anyway, despite people saying that you can't do things. It being everywhere. What you can't do is everywhere. We can't lose weight because this is this. We can't think positive because depression will strike you. We can't do this because like actual free thought is the thing that's rare. And free thought, I would assert, in some way, when consciousness takes over, inherently is positive because no sentient being would want to talk to their only one life, their only one trust of a body, like shit. No one wants to talk to themselves like that. I wouldn't think. I think in some ways it's healthy and funny to be able to do that to yourself in a positive light. But I think the game now that I feel like, and I think that a lot of the reason why most people don't have the time to sort through these things is the fact that I don't want to say they're glued to a desk, but it's you're worrying about these responsibilities that really in the end are just passed up higher and higher, and they don't really affect you, or you don't get any sort of meaning from it besides what the task A to B is. And this is where I think it's more and more of a gift to be able to find what you love and to do what you love and to be able to pursue your passion. And I know it sounds corny. People say don't pursue your passion, you'll get blah 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 blah. But I think it's been one of the most energizing things that I've ever done on the entire planet. It was to be myself. Like really, I don't have to fake or pretend anything, and that's the coolest thing ever. I might have to censor myself a little bit every now and then, but my real thoughts, my dark shit, my funny shit, my positive shit is the same as everyone else's. That's the cool thing. David Goggins. David Goggins says, "No, everyone's hiding something," and if they say they're not, they're lying. And also, you ever heard this quote? Please don't try and be perfect. You'll have no one to relate to. And it's like
Hmm.
the fake, this fake front about, yeah, just accept that you can be depressed and you have nothing to do about it. We're all going to get fatter because our foods are bad and, you're not going to do it and you're going to compare yourself to this influencer and they were just born lucky. Not you, though. Not you. Definitely not you. They were born with a halo on their head, but you, no shot. Like you're just struck with cravings and that's what you have to deal with. That feeling of powerlessness, I think, is a given when someone doesn't have time to think for themselves, like to really be able to process how they feel and then get pissed off about it and be like,
Yeah.
wait a second, I'm being told that this is what I should want, but I'm anxious all the time. I'm not even really happy. If I'm happy, it's when food's in my mouth or I'm taking a drug or a substance or getting a drink with my friends, talking about what we're going to be. But it's like there's no actual immediate, it's always someday, oh, when this is over, then I'll do it. And it's like, no, we're literally here right now. I get to see an airplane fly over my window every like minute and a half, which is, I think, one of the coolest reminders as to what a gift it is to be able to live in this generation of metal flying birds, instantaneous travel, compared to if I been born in another era where I was a part of the generation that had to travel the Sahara Desert. Like to be able to do this now and get on the internet and share and be yourself, not be an influencer, but just be able to express yourself and sort through your own thoughts and discover what you love, find a community, a herd, a tribe of people who share your thoughts too, I think is one of the most hidden in plain sight gifts that we've ever been given. Like
Yeah, that's
really.
a good way to describe it. Hidden in plain sight. I think, um, to your point, I think it's a good lesson in perspective. Like
Mm,
a lot of the things we succeed, fail at, hate, love in our life, feel any kind of way towards is a manner of our perspective and the way we perceive it. And
mm,
I'm a big fan of the Wayne Dyer quote: "When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at start to change." Like that is, if I ever got a quote tattooed on me, that would probably be it. Because the first time I heard that, I was like, "That's so simple, but it makes so much sense." Like
yeah.
you could look at the same situation from two different lenses and maybe be mad or happy about it, depending on how you look at it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you could look at the world for all the terrible because it's out there, and you would be justified in doing that. But Alex Hormozy talks about like you could be a part of a minority group with a history and a person with a history of sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and have all of these outcomes against your favor, and you would be perfectly justified to not go after whatever it is that you want to go after, or you could do it all despite that and be the inspiration to those who are in the same
Mm,
position. His thing is like, okay, and
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that's the thing he gives is like, you have all this shit going against you. Okay, and you can
Yeah.
either choose to sulk in it or choose to take action against it. And I think that it is a manner of perspective. Like that's that's a really important lesson I think that you have sprinkled in there. Is there's a lot of bad going on, there's a lot of reasons to be anxious and depressed, but there is a lot of shit and overweight, but there's a lot of shit that we can do about it too. And it's really a matter of the active choice. Every day you choose which route you want to take. It is a consistent choice you have to make every single day. I would argue sometimes hour to hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So good outlook.
Especially at first. Especially
Yes.
there's points where, and I had a pretty reasonable, and I think maybe we should start to wrap up the episode and give some of these people a form of value, maybe in the form of a lesson that we've gotten from it. I'd like to end with asking you a question, but I really think I shared it on a YouTube that we made impromptu. This outlook of the two shoe salesmen from Manchester. I don't know. I heard my first positive podcast on my drive from San Diego to Temecula, which is an hour drive, when I was a gym general manager. And I heard the Entree Leadership podcast, which is a of the Ramsey Network.
Hmm.
Not Gordon Ramsay. Is it Gordon? No,
Dave, Dave
Dave Ramsey. My
Gordon
bad. My
Ramsay's the
bad. My
chef.
Yes, I apologize. Dave Ramsey, the financial guru, the
They're
leader, and
cousins.
yeah. Okay, got you. Wait, no. Okay,
They're
okay.
not cousins, Yusuf. I'm fucking with you.
I was talking. I thought you were talking about the guy who hosts the Entree Leadership podcast.
Oh, no, no.
I thought that's what you were talking about. No, so this guy who hosts the Entree Leadership podcast, which Entree Leadership is entrepreneurship leadership podcast. I didn't even know what the term entrepreneur meant back then. This was 2019 when I heard it. They got this guy who was the conductor of an orchestra, a really, really well known, the Boston Harmonic, Benjamin Zander, this composer. And he shared this. He's like this 80-year-old, amazingly positive guy, this composer. And he shared this story that was like absolute to me. It made me like hyper present. And I was thinking about, I was like, holy shit, that was a life changing moment I just heard. Then he shared this story about the two shoe salesmen, and it was just two shoe salesmen from Manchester, United Kingdom, go to Africa to see if they have market for them, if there's an opportunity in Africa for them to open business, essentially to sell shoes. One shoe salesman goes and telegraphs back to Manchester after seeing lay of the land, and he goes, "Situation hopeless. None of them wear shoes." And the second shoe salesman goes there to Africa, same place, and he writes another telegram back to Manchester, and he says, "Glorious opportunity. None of them wear shoes yet." And I think it's the same situation, different perspectives, different outlooks. And that to me was like where I was like, am I going to have a good day or a bad day? Both are right. But what's it going to
Yes.
be? How am I going to view it? That profound lesson I don't think has ever left me. And it's always really humbling to catch myself anxious or upset or maybe down about something. I had something kind of recently I feel like I should have been down about or was a little anxious about. I had a little bit, I don't want to say an anxiety attack, but I got relatively anxious this last week about something. And it was a profound moment for me to reconcile where possibility is and what I should be grateful for and what I can't, what do I have to be? This is just an opportunity for me to rekindle my relationship with the world. So what am I saying I can't be with? And then what reality can I ground myself in? And it was a great for me. And I would say I've heard this put before as wherever you're triggered is your therapist. Find what you can't be with, and then rediscover truth again that everything's gonna be fine. So let's end this on a question for you. So if you had
Oh,
any, I got this. I got this. For someone listening right now who I won't say at a fork in the road, maybe the pivotal moment, they're aware of the thing that they need to do. This is my favorite because I think we all suffer with this. And you choosing, you knew that you quote unquote needed to quit because that was your next step. And you'd shared a quote about pain. I won't get into it because I think you could relay it better. Um, Cost of change, etc. If someone here listening is having an internal battle with they're aware of this thing that they know they need to do. Maybe they aren't even aware that that's really their thoughts. And it's not an expectation outside. Maybe it is really their honest thought. They're like, I know I need to do this, but I'm not doing it. What would you share with them based off the perspective that you shared with your friend's dad? That was really extremely profound and insightful based off of what we've talked about so far about possibility. We know the state of most people. I feel I wouldn't say that's actually bold. We're familiar with who our audience is and who's listening
yeah.
and what their mindsets are. So if you're hearing someone, or for someone on the other end of this is hearing, I know I need to do this thing, but I can't. What would be a piece of advice that you could give them because you did this exact same thing 2 weeks ago? You did something that
Yeah.
was uncomfortable. What was that like? What would you give them advice wise?
Yeah. The conflict, good question. The conflict of the job, quitting the 9 to 5 to take a risk, I use air quotes there, um, an opportunity to do this with you was the quote that you're calling back to was the thing that drives all change in our lives is pain. Pain drives change in most cases, in business, in life. And the time you make the change is when the pain of staying the same is now higher than the pain of change because change is inherently uncomfortable. But if the situation you're in is more uncomfortable than that, then you're willing to make a change. There's actually a paradox that Chris Williamson talks about that some people in certain situations would be better off in a worse situation because the job is just fine. And so there's not enough pain, or the relationship is just fine. So they're staying where they are, but they're not as happy as they could be. They'd be better off in a worse situation with more pain that would motivate that. So I think the lesson I would say is that I told myself repeatedly that I had time. And I think that's the biggest illusion and lie we tell ourselves is that we've got
Ah,
time. And that if you don't have a deadline to a goal, it's easy to continue to push it off. I didn't have a deadline. I didn't have to quit my job by this date. I didn't have because it was a steady paycheck. I could continue to do both. There was no real deadline, and I just kept saying that I had time. So I wrote on a piece of paper the promise I made to myself with a monetary goal with a deadline. This much income by the end of August or end of July, excuse me. And I gave myself a deadline. I think the last thing I'll say to that is give yourself some form of a deadline because it's a form of accountability. Stop telling yourself that you have tomorrow and assuming it's guaranteed because you could you could not wake up. You know, the paper is what is it the quote my dad used to say? The obituary are full of people, like the obituary in the paper is full of people that had other plans. That's the quote. And that's thinking we have
ouch.
time is the biggest illusion. And maybe your thing you should be doing, I am guilty of this, is I should be calling my parents more. I should spend more time with my parents. But we keep telling ourselves we just have time. If you think you have time, I heard this on a podcast put what really well once, with your family, think about how many Christmases you have left with them. Take their age, take the average lifespan. I have older parents. That was a sobering moment for me. Is it could
Wow.
be five
Wow.
Christmases. So I think that's my takeaway. I know that's long winded. I threw a lot in there, but stop telling yourself you have time because that's a very presumptuous, bold thing to say because you truly don't know. Give yourself a deadline and stop telling yourself you'll start tomorrow. And I think once you make that change and put the energy out into the universe that you're going after whatever it is you want, or you're being intentional with what it is you say you're being intentional with, the tides start to turn for you in a
Mm.
positive direction.
Life starts to pleasantly surprise you.
It sure does every day.
And also, I'll cap it on maybe the Yusuf way of saying this. Stop being a little bitch.
That's a
Or
good way to cap it.
we could go another Yusuf route. Buddy, stop being a little bitch. Come on. You know what I'm
Fuck are you
saying?
doing?
Buddy. What you are saying? Okay, guys. I think that wraps up episode 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know what we're on. We're just talking at this
6B.
point.
I don't know. I
This is a
hope you
Zoom
like it
call for
though.
us, basically.
Yeah, this is what we do
We,
like all day. We sit on Zoom and chat like this. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. This was a bit of a different lens. I had fun. Did you?
yeah, I got to be myself, and you got to be
Yeah.
yourself. You got to be honest. We got to be honest. Not that we're dishonest. It's just that I think where there's a structure or there's a sense of expectation of being perfect, it definitely makes it less forgiving mentally to be yourself. And I think that we're scared of starting the call the way that we did, starting the episode the way that we did. But you know what? I think people are going to resonate with it more than not the racist terms necessarily, but I think that the deeper recesses of our mind more than anything, because it probably sounds just like yours. We're willing to bet. We hope so.
Yeah, we really hope so, or this isn't going to go very well.
Shall we do a step check? You got
Oh
raw. You
yeah.
got to run in. I wish you got me yesterday. I think I might. No, actually, yesterday you were so silly ahead. You were at like 17,000 steps by like noon, and I was at like
Yeah.
6. That was
Yeah. What are
crazy.
you at?
It's 250 PST right now, and I'm at 5.7, 57 Huno.
It is 550 EST, and I am at 15,344.
Wow. Did you run a lot yesterday or something? Then you hit nine
Yeah, I
miles.
did.
What was it?
I did 9 miles yesterday, and then I walked like 6,000 steps. I finished the day at like 21,000.
Wow. Okay. We actually had someone who was DMing us yesterday. She, as not a full time influencer or coach, as a full time something. I don't know what she does, but she hit 21. She sent me a screenshot of her steps. She's at 21 thou wow. That's how I responded to her. I was like, "You're at 21 thou wow? That's crazy." She says she listens to these episodes every Sunday when we put them out. She waits for them, so hopefully she hears this shit. Adventures of Steph. We hope that you
Yeah.
you you find this rewarding and encouraging for you to continue this badass pace that you're at, which just beat the shit out of Michael. So congrats on that.
Hey, you just made me feel very inferior in a good way, Steph. Congratulations. That's fucking impressive. Yeah, I had a lady comment. I struggle to not get 35,000 steps a day at work. And I was like, what are you, a sheep herder? Like, are you one of the
I
dogs in the
hope she
pack that
meant
herds sheep? Like,
3,500, 35,000.
she
That's at
wrote 35K.
There's no way. Maybe 3.5K, 35K.
My video was about getting 10K and she said 35K. So unless she thinks like, I don't know,
You know, that reminds me
kilometers,
of
that would
so.
still be a lot.
So some of you guys know the story of my coach who went to prison, the prison coach. I saw him reposted. He's on the really good podcast talking about how he's at the gym he wakes up at 2:45 every morning, gets to the gym by 3:30. Gym opens at 4, and then someone commented on that post was like, "Nice try, cupcake. I'm at the gym at 1 a.m. in the sauna, resting for 8 hours for my 12-hour lift. Nice try though." Some cute stuff like that. So you could have been facetious like that guy. That was hilarious. Like, oh, that's cute.
Okay, good
10,000.
point.
Yeah, no, I have a hard time not getting 35. What you saying? 10,000 is hard. I'm just joking.
Yeah, okay,
She
fair
probably
enough.
really meant it.
Maybe she was screwing me, or maybe she's just a nomad for a living. I don't know. Whatever you do for work, and if you're listening to this, I can't remember your name, but please let me know because I'm genuinely curious. But that I think that puts a bow on it. Drop your step check in the comments per usual. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Good feedback, bad feedback. Yes, we read it all. No, we're not too busy to listen to you and hear you out. We genuinely take everything you say in stride and try to do better every episode. So thanks, y'all. We enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you guys. Bye.